The Supreme, everybody. That's where we're going to start with the first grade one of the meeting. Before I do prices, I'm going to come to the trend if I can. So we're going to have Matt Toombs with a trend for almost every race. I don't think we've got one for the champion, but otherwise your trend. And reminder, this isn't just a trend. This is leading you towards underbet horse. Value is at the heart of Matt Toombs' trend.
So the trend is that grade one winning hurdlers are 10 from 35 this century, 17.49% profit. 7 of those 10 have come in the last 11 renewals. Ballyburn and Django Bahia qualifiers. The latter looks set for Aintree. And I wanted to include this trend for the first race to emphasise that trends shouldn't be used literally. It's the theory behind the trend that matters, not the bare statistics. It's top class novice, not just labels. It's the best 2 mile novice hurdling form that we're looking for. And in simplistic bare form terms, arguably, the best piece of form is a maiden hurdle at Fairyhouse at the start of December. In that race, they went steadily. Firefox sprinted away from Ballyburn, won by 2.5 lengths. They were in the air together 3 out, but when they started racing, Firefox just looked to have too much speed for Ballyburn. Getting on top, coming to 2 out, Ballyburn was a little bit awkward, never landed a blow after that. If you'd never seen either of those two before or since, Firefox would be 10s on for the rematch. But the general consensus is Summer Willies were coming on more for the run this autumn. Firefox had a fitness advantage having run the bumper. Ballyburn's just improved out of all recognition, especially for forcing tactics. So you can discount the form. And I'm not so sure. Firefox won pretty easily. Vibes are very strong. Gordon had the Royal Bond winner that weekend. Asked by Gary O'Brien, who was the best novice hurdler he had, unequivocal Firefox. Jack Kennedy subsequently said the same. He did disappoint at Nace next time, but returned home slightly lame. Gordon had a bit of a cold in his yard. The horses weren't finishing out their races. So I think you can put a line through that. Even if you were certain Ballyburn would turn up here, not the Bearing Bingham, the prices just look wrong to me. I think Ballyburn's a quality novice. He's not one of those weak favourites I want to lay, but so's Firefox. I think he's a fair chance of confirming the form, and he may not have to face Ballyburn again. So I think he's a cracking anti-post bet to kick off the week.
And that is one of the conundrums, is where is Ballyburn going to run? Because I think after Tully Hill cemented himself as a potential grade one horse over this distance, the suggestion was that, well, they've got Mystical Power and Tully Hill, who are likely to go for this race. Tully Hill's only entry. Ballyburn will go elsewhere. But the exchange has moved in favour of Ballyburn of late, and Mystical Power has drifted out a bit. Ballyburn 2.68. It's just more Mullins bingo. It's great. Tully Hill 8.8, Mystical Power 8.85, Fox now 8.4, Jericho de Repene 11.0. Sorry, Tell Her the Name 16.5, Slade Steel 24.0. You can see the back and the lay prices there. There's a bit of a discrepancy. Some of those bigger prices that'll get a tighten up as we approach the festival. And as you're looking at these Matchbook exchange prices, you are likely to be getting better odds given the nature of the exchange than you would do with your general sports book. There we are. Steve Jones, I'm desperate to hear from you. Oh, God.
It was odds on.
It was odds on, and it's been landed. And so that's
very impressed with Tully Hill. Very impressed with your presenting as well. Very impressed with your Wi-Fi, considering it didn't work on Friday. So you must have paid the bill. So hats off to you. But Tully Hill, again, it is a Willie Mullins kind of. He's got so much ammunition in this race. But what Tully Hill did last time at Punchestown, I thought was most impressive. Just bobbed along and won unchallenged. And okay, that was only a listed race, and it might not have been the deepest, but there was plenty of horses going into that off the back of decent efforts. And I think Tully Hill is got the potential to certainly step into grade one races. A horse that will run in those famous Cheveley Park that we used to see on the flat all the time with horses like Medician. And now they're all over, well, not all of them, but they're all in Ireland over jumps and doing really well. So Tully Hill is the one for me, but it is an open race and it's price dependent. I think they've gone very defensive on the Mullins horse. It's got several options in Ballyburn, who's been impressive as well. But we know that Tully Hill's going there, and we know that he's progressive and smart.
The only time, ladies and gentlemen, you will hear Medician mentioned on a Cheltenham Festival preview. And that is the in-depth angles that we bring you here. Right, let's cement this Tully Hill position then, because there's a few going for him. Donn, why are you now keen Tully Hill?
I think he's a big price, Tom. Like nobody knows. I'd say probably not even Willie Mullins knows where they're going to run. But with Mystical Power, like Mark Walsh is going to ride Mystical Power wherever he runs, and Tully Hill and Ballyburn, it would make sense to split them up because Paul Tannen could then ride both of them. And Tully Hill's only entries in the Supreme Novices, but so by a process of elimination, I think there's a good chance Tully Hill will. Well, of course Tully Hill will run here. There's a good chance Ballyburn will be the one to go to the Burying Bingham. Who knows? But that's the kind of the way I'm thinking. Tully Hill, he's a classy horse. He was the Willie Mullins selected to take on A Dream to Share in the Punchestown bumper last season. He didn't get the better of him, and Ballyburn, of course, went and won another bumper at Punchestown. Tully Hill, he was beaten at 8-1 on his debut this season, and that was at a time of year at which the Willie Mullins horses they were coming on for the run kind of mid-late November. They tend to progress from that point all through the season. He was good at Naas then next time, but he was very good the last day, as Steve said. He got out in front. Thought his jumping was good in the main. He made a mistake at the fifth last, I think, but in the last four flights when the pace was on, I thought he was good over those. The time was good. He beat two good horses in No Flies on Him and Jagoro, and he beat them really well. And yeah, I just think that he should be a wee bit shorter than 8 points, something or thereabouts, the price that he is at the minute.
Okay, understood. And Charlie, what do you want to add to Tully Hill?
Not an awful lot, Tom. I think the lads have said it all. I just was very impressed with Tully Hill the last day at Punchestown. I agree with Don's comment, which he'd mentioned before about Paul Townend. If they split him and Ballyburn up, it would make sense. I think this horse he stays probably further than this 2 mile trip, which I don't think is a bad thing. He's fairly versatile in the way they ride him, and you definitely can win a Supreme being ridden forward, which he did last time at Punchestown. His jumping, I think Ruby said that he maybe spends a bit much time in the air, but I don't think his jumping is a factor. And so, yeah, for me, again, Tully Hill at the prices with a market that's dominated by Ballyburn looks a decent bet and good value to get this festival kicked off to the best start possible.
Okay, one shout for Firefox. I'm going to read out some comments shortly. 3 shouts for Tully Hill. Deasy, I know you're no strong opinion here, so we are skipping you, but it'll be worth the wait when you do come in. Dan, you got a couple of shouts, one at a price and one for the obvious.
Yeah, I just am coming to the idea that Ballyburn's going to run here because I just think he is a cut above every other Willie Mullins novice hurdler. I mean, the improvement he's shown on every start over hurdle has been mind-blowing. I mean, to beat the likes of Cletus Poulor and Apples of Brazil so easily in that maiden hurdle. So I know Firefox beat him first time out, but I think there are reasons for that. And then that 2 mile race, the DRF, I think is probably the strongest novice form we have on offer. Slade Still in his own right is a very likeable horse. The 3rd and 4th, I think, will run really well in the county hurdle. I just think the manner of his victories have been so impressive. I'm not entirely convinced on Tully Hill. I think Mystical Power would actually marginally prefer the Tully Hill of those. But one at a bigger price of Willie Mullins, who I think is interesting. And I know Matt is very keen on the A team of Willie Mullins always being the ones to decide. But I think Mr. Giff could run a decent race at a big price here. Like, he won his maiden hurdle really impressively, really good jumping performance on that occasion. And while he does have some things to overcome in terms of the fact that he isn't one of the top A-teamers for Willie Mullins, he does have some history on his side. He's had loads of experience in France, and we've seen the likes of Vator, Duvan, Classical Dream. They all ran in France over hurdles and then came and obviously won the Supreme. And I'm not comparing him to those because obviously I don't think he's of that level, but he has experience on his side. I love the way he jumped in his maiden hurdle. Really impressive on that occasion. I think at a big price, he could outrun his odds in place.
Some of the comments coming in: Ballyburn Cert, Ballyburn Supreme. Firefox says Brent has no chance against Ballyburn. And my favourite so far is from Peter. Welcome along, Peter. He says, who's that coming towards us in the distance? Is it Duncan Goodhue? No. Is it Phil Mitchell? No. Is it Pitbull? No. It's Micheál Deasy, everybody. Yay! And what he's suggesting there is that Deasy's bald. So there we are, if anybody had missed that. We're going to come to you shortly, Deasy, on the next race. Harvey says if Tully Hill wins the Supreme, stick the festival in the bin. Matt, I want to ask you one question on run styles because we've had that reference here a few times. It suits going forward in the Supreme. If Ballyburn does go to the Burying Bingham, How do you want to be ridden in that race, or does it not matter?
Well, traditionally, they've gone very steadily in that race. Therefore, it's been about settling. It's been about having a turn of foot at the end of the race. But sooner or later, you've got to imagine that someone is going to cotton on to that and is going to say, actually, I'm much better off trying to run the finish out of these speed horses. Ballyburn, the way he's run for, if he does go for the Bearing Bing, I might try and make all and not worry about the potential for not staying the trip. I think he'll stay perfectly well 2-5.
Understood. Right. And Sean says only 4 favourites in the last 19 have won the Supreme, but I'd venture they were more recently, given that we've had smaller fields of late. Okay. And we move on to the next contest, which is the Arkle. Let me bring you some prices here. In fact, we'll do Marine National 3.8. Oh, I tell you, that's got to be tempting some people in. Il Était Temps 7.0, Founder 58.2, Hunter's Yarn 10.5, JPR 1 10.5, Calixios 12.0, Gaelic Warrior, surely not here, 14.0, Facile Vega maybe going up in trip 22.0, bigger prices thereafter. Matt, take it away, the trend.
The trend is that 11 of the last 14 renewals have been won by Willie Mullins, 5, Nicky Henderson, 4, Henry Bromhead, 2. 2 Mile Chasing is the most specialist division. Very few horses can go an Arkle gallop and jump at it, even with the more forgiving fences these days. And that specialism is extended to trainers. The only other recent winning trainer was Alan King, who was training his 3rd winner of the race with Edmonton a couple of years ago. Of those trainers, Henry's got Quilixios, potentially supplemented in the pocket. Willie will run 2 or 3. And given his experience disadvantage in such a specialist division, be some training performance if Barry Connell can turn Marine National round from the Irish Arkle flop and win this. The last Arkle winner beaten on their previous run was for Paddy de Plaster 15 years ago, and he'd been a good 2.5 lengths second to Caldine in what's now the 2 Mile 5 Grade 1 at DRF. So Marine National is a favourite I'm keen to take on.
I like that. That's a stat I feel you can really get your teeth into and throw out before the Arkle itself to put people off. Marine National, Donn McClean.
Yeah, I just think he's going out to a price now at which you might be interested in him. Look, it's as we discussed before, it's kind of binary. Do you forgive him his last run, and to what degree do you forgive him his last run? But just take his last run out for a second. He was one of the outstanding novice hurdlers last season. His jumping on his seasonal debut, his chasing debut at Leopardstown at Christmas was so good. He was just effortless. He oozed class. He won with plenty in hand. He beat firm footings by 8.5 lengths. He clocked a faster time than Dyna Blue clocked him winning the Grade 1 early or later in the day. And they went fast in that race as well. Gentleman de May took them along. So that to me was the confirmation of what Barry Connell had been saying, that his schooling had been really good, that he could be a better chaser than hurdler, and he was such a good hurdler and progressive hurdler as well last season. So then, yeah, his poor run at Leopardstown over Christmas, for whatever reason, it wasn't. We know that it wasn't his running. So back at Cheltenham, where he won the Supreme Novices Hurdle, probably back a better ground than the ground he encountered at the Dublin Racing Festival. It just could see him bounce. Like if he hadn't run there, he was odds on for the Arkle before he ran there. And obviously, that it's a big negative against him. But I think maybe not as big a negative as the degree to which his price has been extended.
Okay, that's a shout for Marine National. And the horse that won the Arkle Trial in Ireland is the selection of Micheál Deasy. Welcome back, Deasy.
Thanks, Tom. Just on Marine National, I suppose the one I'm going for is Il Était Temps and ties in a bit with Marine National. I didn't think Marine National ran that bad the last time, but he found nothing. And with the first time tongue tie, and I would suggest that suspect maybe there's some issues with his wind or something that stopped him finishing out his race. But I think Il Était Temps, and he's probably one of my stronger fancies now for the whole festival. I thought he was brilliant the last day at Leopardstown. I thought that he travelled well, and if you were just watching the back straight there at Leopardstown, he just started jumping past Marine National. I think he threw in one kind of sketchy jump, but the rest of them he was just finding links with his jumping. He picked up so well. I know he only won by half a length, but I think he just got there just in time. It was a perfectly timed ride by Danny Mullins. I think he's improved with every run this year. He gave Gaelic Warrior a show at Limerick in what was Gaelic Warrior's absolute perfect conditions. I he got cut off there at the last fence, but I think if he hadn't jumped across and had to switch out, I think he would have got a lot closer. I think he's improved massively for chasing, and I think he's a nice price at 6.6. And I'll be having a good cut off him in this. I think he's really good.
Regular listener, viewer Helen Sheridan says, I think Calixios is the value in this. Owen says, I fancy a bit of Calixios too at the price, as do a couple of people on the podcast. Steve Jones.
Yeah, Cheltenham Festival form is always very key. And this horse won the Triumph Hurdle 3 years ago. And since then, it's been running respectably behind the likes of Tihupu, and then missed 18 months before going chasing. And what he's done in general, I thought was excellent. The one blot in either side of the wing, or the winds either side of the poor run, came over 3 miles. And you clearly don't stay 3 miles in testing ground. And so it was good to see him bounce back at Naas over 2 miles when he jumped well and he travelled really well. So for a horse that was tried over 3 miles, I can't quite get my head around why he was trying 3 miles. But back to 2 miles at Naas last time, he ran out a good winner. And like I say, he jumps well, he travels strongly, but he finishes his races. My worry with Marine Nationale is we do know how good he is. He saw that in the Supreme, and he's got festival form. But I don't want to see a horse finishing as tamely as he did on his going into Cheltenham. So I think Calixios is a much better bet, personally.
And just to confirm, Marine Nationale did have a wind up as well in the off season. So that's the tongue tie on then last time. And yeah, it might be a concern for plenty. Dan, what do you want to add to the Calixios shout?
Yeah, not too much. I was just really impressed by that run at Naas. I know it's not grade 1 form like the likes of Let's Say Tom had, but I think that race is a really solid piece of form. Safra, who was second, is a horse I have a lot of time for, and I'll get on to him when it comes to talking about some handicaps down the line. Mr. Policeman has obviously been a bit of a hype horse for this season. He was well back in third and won well next time out. And everything about that run screamed proper 2 mile chaser to me. Travelled really strongly, jumped well, quickened when asked to, and then stayed up strongly up the hill at Naas. All of that points to a good run here. Henry de Bromhead knows how to win an Arkle, and I think the fact he'll be ridden positively is also a big plus, given that normally suits this race.
All right, Charlie, big old price for this horse.
Yeah, big price. I mean, I just thought it was a trappy race, this Marine Nationale, as the boys have said. He looks a relatively big price now, but I just can't really forgive him that run in his last start. And then I think the others are all sort of around the same sort of level. And so I suppose it's whoever pitches up on the day. I mean, this horse been non-runner, no bet for me. He might not turn up, but Blood Destiny, I just thought was interesting at a massive price. He was obviously a real hype horse for his chasing debut at Naas, and he jumped brilliantly, beat Hartwood, who obviously franked that form, win the handicap off 136, and then looked to me like he was outstayed behind Spillane's Tower, who again is no bad horse. And I think this drop back in trip is exactly what he needs. He looks a very, very good jumper. He's able to ride off the front end, which Dan Overall has just rightly said is a good tactic in this race. And yeah, at the price, I just thought he was interesting from a win and place angle. And like I say, no run, no bet if he doesn't end up pitching up here.
Alex Jeffrey says the silence on Hunter's Yarn is deafening. Is he going still? Well, Matt Toombs, there was a suggestion that both he and Blood Destiny were mere possibles for the festival at the Willie Mullins Open Day.
Yeah, that's right. David Casey was on a preview the other night and said a decision has been made and that he will run. As we know, what senior members of the Clisutton team say doesn't always happen. Willie decides. But I wanted to take a bit of a punt on that, Casey being right, because Hunter's Yarn has really impressed me visually. He would be 2 from 2 over fences, but for falling on the last on debut. He was set to beat Safura, more authority than Calixios did at Naas. 41 length third in that race, battled it out, won the big novice handicap at Naas yesterday. Hunter's Yarn showed he learned from that in his next run, got a leg out when blundering 2 out back at Fairy House, still trounced Path Through by 10 lengths. And Path Through sandwiched that run with 2 good efforts at Leopardstown, firstly falling at the last one with every chance off 132 at Christmas, and then less than 3 lengths second off 136 at DRF. More forgiving fences at Cheltenham. Hopefully it'll give Hunter's Yarn a bit more margin for error. And he looks a really fast horse. So he has got to get there. He's got to take the day. He's got to prove the track suits. So he's not a rock solid proposition. But if he does take to the test, I think I might have him the most likely winner based on the visual impression he's created. So I think he's worth a punt, anti-post at a double figure price.
Okay, that is Hunter's yarn. More positive vibes that he might rock up. We move on to the Champion Hurdle. Keep your comments coming in, read the Champion Hurdle. Somebody out there has got to be willing to take on Constitution Hill. 1.36, which is incidentally a good bit bigger than you get on a sportsbook at the moment. State Man 4.8. I'm not even going to read the rest out. Don't care. Constitution Hill. None of you seem to be taking this horse on as such. Let us know in the comments if anyone else is. My view is pretty clear, and that is on the day I think this horse will be 1.2 or shorter, and I'm very happy to be against him at that price. My reason being that he's an incredibly enthusiastic jumper. The jump he put in, I think it was 3 out at Kempton, was stunning. The jump he put in at the last at Cheltenham last year, fabulous. But I feel this horse is in danger of treading a fine line between sheer brilliant athleticism and just making an error. And, you know, he wouldn't describe him as careful. And if he makes an error here on just his second start this season, State Man is a good enough horse to have him. If he puts in a fluent round, he'll win. But I'm willing to have that on my side as much as hand on heart. I want Constitution Hill to score and to win and continue unbeaten. I think he's got a mistake in him personally. So I will be against him if he's around about 1.2 or shorter, which I think he will be on the day when some of the obvious horses don't go and we get maybe a 4-5 runner field. I'll come to you, Deasy, because you want to play the straight forecast.
I do. That's how I would play this race. I think that obviously the front two are miles clear of everything else. Constitution Hill is too short to be backing unless you're loads and loads and loads of money. But I think that State Man is so much clearer of the rest as well. And I think State Man has improved this year. I think he'll get closer to them. I'd be going the unders on distance betting and that. But I can see Constitution Hill coming first and State Man being beaten by maybe between 4, 5, 6 lengths. But straight forecast, you might get about 1.7, 1.8 out of it. I think it's just the two of them, and the rest of them will be 20 lengths behind them. We put this to Matt there during the week, and he said this isn't a bet he'd be following him, that State Man might get burned out chasing him home. But I still think that they should at least be 20 lengths ahead of whoever is in third. The rest of them are, handicappers. They're good horses, but they're not at the same level, these two boys. So you can bet forecast on Matchbook now. So straight forecast on Constitution Hill first and State Man to be second.
Harvey says, anybody think State Man has the ability to turn the form around without Constitution Hill making a mistake? I think no, given what everyone's put on the document. Donn, do you want to add anything to this? You've put in the document you could play a handicap on State Man, adding lengths to his performance, and you've selected 9.
I think
Coming again, Donn.
Yeah, sorry, Constitution Hill beat him by 9 lengths last year, so I think like Micheál, State Man will get closer to him this year than he did. State Man, he's such a classy horse. He's only, since he's joined Willie Mullins, he's only ever been beaten when he fell on his first run from, and when Constitution Hill beat him in the Champion Hurdle last year. He's a multiple Grade 1 winner. He looks like an improved horse this year. He looks better in what he's been doing this year. He's just been doing it with more authority. And I know Poste didn't run his race the last day. They tried something new, got him out in front. He didn't enjoy that at all, to the degree to which he's not even going to Cheltenham now. But State Man, he's just so easy. Just seems to do whatever Paul Tannen wants him to do. He sits in front, waits for Paul Tannen to give him a squeeze, and then he quickens up. And Paul Tannen did say very early this season that he thought he just wasn't at his best in the Champion Hurdle last year. That, okay, Constitution Hill was a better horse on the day and by quite some way, but he thought he should have been beating the other horses by more than he did. And he's 6th last year, he's 7 now. I just think if he can bring the momentum that he has from his season so far, like he's won his 3 Grade 1s this season so far, if he can bring that momentum back to Cheltenham, where he has run in a Champion Hurdle second and won a county hurdle as well, so we know that he handles the track. I can see him getting closer. Like if Constitution Hill doesn't make a mistake, as you said, it's hard to see Stepman reversing placings, but I can see him giving him a race and getting closer to him. And again, whatever run, I'd say it's going to be, obviously it'll be a small number of runners, but it's obviously the betting, as the betting says, it's a match between the two of them. I can see Stepman giving him a race.
I'm just going to throw this out there. I only really want one response for anyone that feels strongly about it. Maybe nobody does, but does nobody think that Constitution Hill, it's not as if, and through no fault of connections, because the Fighting Fifth was originally off, and I absolutely see they shouldn't have run him, or why they didn't run him at Sandown on very heavy ground in the race. Not So Sleepy won the rearranged Fighting Fifth. Then he scoped dirty before the International, so he didn't run in that. It's not their fault. But you can't hand on heart say he's had a great preparation for a champion hurdle, which his whole season has been. It's been one big preparation for a champion hurdle. Nicky Henderson admits that, right? So we can't.
No, I disagree, Tom. Yeah, I disagree with that. I think that Nicky is delighted with his one-run preparation. Yeah, I don't think he ever intended to go for the Beulah. Fighting Fifth was there, providing everything worked well, with the ground being good on the day, not being postponed and that sort of thing. It was Nicky's quipping about how Constitution Hill barely knows Stateman, having only seen him for a minute at the start last year. That tells me that Nicky thinks he's got him in absolutely top form. So I think the point the boys have made is absolutely right. You've said, Tom, he jumped so quickly, he could always tip up like any other horse. He could not be on a going day. But I don't think the preparation is a problem at all. And providing there isn't an accident, I think he'll win easily.
Right, let's kick on to the mares. We don't have prices on screen, but I'm going to tell you that 1.6 is Lossy Mouth. Astro Diamond is 5.0. Echoes in Rain is 15.0. And then we do get into the bigger prices. Do you know, I haven't even previewed on the sheet what people fancy. A couple of no bets, Lossy Mouth. I'm not going to bother then. But Matt and Deasy are both with Astro Diamond, therefore against Lossy Mouth, I guess. Give me your trend, Matt, and then why Astro?
Trend is that since the inaugural running, every winner had run over at least 2 miles, 3 over hurdles. All but one had won a hurdle over at least the mare's hurdle trip. And the one who hadn't was Benny Didier, who won over 2-4 over fences. That said, there isn't a record of short-priced horses with unproven stamina getting turned over either. We're just in new territory here with Lossy Mouth and not having run over further than 2-1. And I just think there's too much of a gap between Lossy Mouth and Astro Diamond in the market. Lossy Mouth's 2 races at 2-1, both steadily run races. Visually, she was terrific in the Beulah. But that was a sprint against some opponents who were either out of form or didn't have conditions to suit. She might be even better over 2-4. But given that we don't know, she just looks too short. Astro Diamond hacked up in the Yorkshire Rose, proved her stamina, winning the Honeysuckle at Fairy House, running a solid race in the Hatton's Grace, showed lots of speed too at Doncaster. So I just think that the prices are out of line and that they'll correct themselves by the off. That gap between their prices ought to narrow. And so from an anti-post point of view, Astro Diamond looks like the shortener and the obvious play.
I'm just going to read that trend again, because I think when it comes to favourites like this is a really interesting one, and it leads into horses being over or under bet. And the suggestion from Matt is that Lossy Mouth is over bet. Since the inaugural running, every winner had run over at least 2 miles, 3 over hurdles, and all but one had won a hurdle over at least the mare's trip of 2 mile 3. DC.
I have very little to add to Matt's case there. He's all spot on. It's a price thing. Like Astro Diamond is 4-1 in the books, and you can get a 7.5 a matchbook. She'll definitely go off shorter than that. She's run off the distance, and she's a very good horse. And Lossy Mouth, again, this the 5-year-olds, they have it's hard from their second season sometimes, and it's just a price thing. I think Astro Diamond is a very good horse as well, so I'm willing to take a chance there at 7.5.
Keep your questions, your generic festival questions coming in. Gus has talked about Willie Mullins against British runners. I'll make a note of them with generic festival questions and try, if we have time, and bring them in at the end. So keep those coming in. If you have any sort of non-race specific festival questions, please do those. Any other Tuesday bets between the Ultimate, the Boodles, the National Hunt Chase, etc.? I will come to you, Charlie, and in fact, we'll get all of our Ultimate selections. There's a few here. So, Charlie, first of all.
Yeah, just Shamblu for the skeletons in the Ultimate. When I was on with you, Matt and Tom, you, Matt and Donn the other day, I made a case for him. I think he's obviously had his problems. This started off this season poorly, but is working his way back to form. A couple of good runs around Ascot over 2-3 and then 3 miles the last day. He's also got a back class, Grade 1 winning novice chaser. He's £9 lower than his peak, and he just wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world if he went and ran a massive race in the Ultima. And I think he's 21, 23.0. And yeah, I thought he's quite an attractive bet, to be honest.
I'm putting up Giovinco in the Ultima, who may not go because, of course, they've got another live chance in that. I just think it's the race that I would want him to go for, as opposed to one of the graded races. I think a handicap over this distance off his mark would be absolutely spot on. Giovinco for last year's winning connections. As I say, I'm not sure he's going to go, so there's no point in doing it now. But if he lined up in the race, he would seriously interest me. Giovinco, I think he's got a lovely profile for the race. Another Ultima shout from you, Steve, and then you can kick on with anything else you fancy.
Yeah, Kim Bailey's got a couple of chances, so I would imagine he'd run them both. They're both owned by different people, and Chianti Classico is his most fancied one in this. But I thought Trelawney had an excellent chance. This is a horse who was running over 2.5 mostly over fences so far, but he did win over 2.7 over hurdles on bad ground in a handicap the day after Cheltenham last year. And his third, so he made his chase debut at Carlisle and won, and his third behind Ginny's Destiny and Grey Dawning, finishing front of Krabilli. I thought I was exceptionally good form in December at Cheltenham, off level weights, getting 3 off Grey Dawning and giving weight to Krabilli at level weights with the winner, who is hot favourite for the Grade 1, the 2.5. And he would have been even closer had he not missed out it was either the second last or the last, and then stayed on again like he's going to love the return to 3 miles. And a nice couple of runs in small fields since then won't have suited him, over 2-3. And going back up to 3 miles, I think he's got an excellent chance. I'd have him over Bailey's other one. And 17.0 or thereabouts. Grand. And the other one, yeah, look, he might not run. He's Willie Mullins' horse in the National Hunt Chase. But Manila Kakuna, since he was second in the Albert Bartlett and then second, it punches down to the nice guy. I've always thought he'd be ideal for this. Whether he runs or not, I'm not sure. But monster price, you can take a chance.
Matt, one in the same race, National Hunt Chase.
Yeah, Salvador Ziggy. Opposition's melting away a bit here. Likes of Nick Rocket, 3-card Bragg, Flooring Porter may not run now. Good festival form when second in the Potemps off 147. Had the classic Elliott prep for this, getting his chasing experience in early. Then running in a big autumn handicap, he was second off 150 in the Kerry National. So it's a bit similar to sort of Raven Hill, who was second off 137 in that race. Tiger Roll won the Munster National, so on. And he's just got the perfect Gordon Elliott profile for this, and it could cut up.
I like the Sean stat, only 2 Irish train winners since 1967 in the Ultima. There's also another ludicrous one about first-time headgear. You can get all of those and more in our handicap preview, which is going to be out next Wednesday at 7:15. National Hunt Chase as well for you, Dan, and a few others. So take us through them.
Yeah, I love an any other bet section. So, like Matt, I'm a big fan of Salvador Ziggy, just has a rock-solid profile for this race. Already rated 153. Only in recent years has Gaillard de Menil had a higher rating going into the race, and he was a second season novice who'd won a Grade 1. So I think he'll just be bang there. And while he may be vulnerable to likes of Embassy Gardens if he is top class, I'm not exactly convinced he is. In the Ultima, I think Chianti Classico just has a lovely profile for the race. British trained novice hurdler, novice chaser rather. Loved his chasing debut at Chepstow. Looked a complete natural. Then had a couple of interesting runs. Once in a small field at Ascot, which I don't think suited. And we last saw him at Kempton, where raced really wide that day. Good ground. The Kim Bailey yard were really out of form. Still finished a really good second when conditions wouldn't have suited. Clearly had this race in mind for some time. I think Kim Bailey can go one better than he did with Happy Go Lucky, and Chianti Classico has quite a similar profile to him. And then one in the Fred Winter at a big price. I say Partir for Martin Brazel. And it was the first horse on my Fred Winter radar when he finished second in his hurdling debut. Now, that form isn't exactly standout, and he's had a few hit and misses here. But you go to that Grade 2 over Christmas, which is undeniably a key piece of form. So you've had like Cargazy, who came out and won at the DRF. They were all kind of bunched up amongst each other that day. And Ose Partir was anchored dead last and snuck into the race from off the pace, finished in and around the likes of Miss Manzour, Eagle Fang, Cossack Chak and Batman Jirak, and arguably given the more conservative ride out of all of them. And all of those four mentioned are far shorter in the betting than Ose Partir is. He's currently 34.0. And we've seen Martin Brazel in these big handicaps, how efficient he's been at targeting them. He's been so unlucky to see an Epic Song and Fast or Slow get narrowly beaten last year. I think he's just a master of getting these horses right. So at 34.0, I think he could be a real big player. And it wouldn't surprise me if he gets quite well backed come the day as well.
Donn.
I'd like to see him run in the National Hunt Chase. He's obviously got the option of the Stayers Hurdle again, but I think there's a lot to like about him as a staying chaser. He won on his chasing debut at Cheltenham at the October meeting when he jumped really, really well. He beat Broadway Boy pretty easily that day by more in hand than the 2.5 length winning margin. He's run twice over fences since then. He's had excuses for both. His first of the two was in the Florida Pearl Chase when he was going right-handed for the first time in ages. We know that he jumps to his left, and he was annoyed by a loose horse that day. And then in the Neville Hotels Chase at Leopardstown over Christmas, he was around the inside, probably on the worst of the ground, because that's the way he goes. He goes to his left. He's a proven Cheltenham horse. He's a dual Stayers Hurdle winner, and he's got that. He's not as good over fences as he is over hurdles and on official ratings, but he's still 151 rated chaser. And that's way up there, as the lads were saying, about ratings for this race. So, and we know that he goes well at Cheltenham. He jumps to Cheltenham fence as well. I think the step up and trip as well to 3 miles 6, that'll be a positive for him. So I hope he goes here, because I think he's a big chance if he does.
That is Flooring Porter in the National Hunt Chase, and Deasy, another one in that race for you.
Matt just burst my balloon there by saying 3-car Bragg might not run in the 4 mile or the National Hunt Chase, but I think it would really suit him. I think he seems like a horse that needs more than 3 miles. He's constantly being touched off. After running a massive race, I think the extra few furlongs would suit him. He's a Doris there. He's just a good solid horse. But I haven't seen the news that he might run in it. But if he doesn't today, I'd be having a nice win place betting him, because I think he just has a good profile for the race.
Okay, and we move on to Best Tuesday Lays. No need for an explanation. We've pretty much given them. For me, Constitution Hill in the Champion Hurdle if 1.2 or shorter, and Marine Nationale 3.5 or shorter in the Arkle. Matt?
Lossiemouth in the Mare's Hurdle.
Which you agree with, DC?
I do.
There you go. And I just might as well stop everyone saying anything. Apologies. Charlie?
Yeah, Marine Nationale in the Arkle for me as well. I think that I just can't, like I say, can't forget that run the last day, and I think they're all relatively similar levels of ability, and he's too short.
Best bets then for the first day of the Cheltenham Festival. Mine is Calixios in the Arkle. Steve?
Mine is... What is mine? Trelawney, is it?
No, mate, it's the same. But don't worry, it's great having you.
Calixios,
that's fine. But we've seen you eating dinner, so that's the most important thing. Matt, you.
It's Firefox in the Supreme.
Good. Donn. That was Tully Hill. Tully Hill in the Supreme. Which, Charlie, you?
Yeah, Tully Hill for me as well.
I feel like this section's gone really well. I'm really proud of it. Dan.
Smashing this.
Yeah, Dan.
Chianti Classico in the Ultima.
DC.
Ilete Tom.
Good. Steve, do you want another go? Steve?
I can give you a different horse if you like.
Right.